The final boss is back. It's go time. Season 3 is here. Are you tuning in? Every Sunday is Sitting Down Sundays with the final boss. Get ready for an inspiring journey as we dive deep into the transformation from the nation's capital to the entertainment capital of the world. This is the conversation that will ignite your dreams and fuel your ambitions. What you'll experience: game-changing insights from industry leaders, real talk about making impossible dreams possible, the blueprint for leveling up your life, motivation that hits different. This isn't just another podcast episode. This is your wake-up call to greatness. Don't just listen, absorb, don't just hear. Transform, don't just dream, execute. Drop a like in the comments if you're ready to level up with us.
Welcome to the Final Boss Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here. We are here. Listen. Whew. I got a great show for you tonight. You know what? Let me put some chapstick on because my lips are a bit chapped. Okay. Man. Refreshing. Listen, everyone. Man, we got a great show for you tonight. This is episode number 177. And you know what, man? I'm going to get right into it because my team is playing. Go Rams, baby. Go Rams. Go Rams, man. Look, I need my team to win tonight. Go Rams. Go Rams, man. Hopefully we make it to the bowl. Look, episode number 177 on our way to 200. I might say that a couple times tonight, but I want you guys to understand it's with good and due purpose, right? Good and due purpose. So I'm going to do something different, right? I'm going to do something different tonight. I'm going to start off before I do the admin notes. I'm going to do the admin notes after I do the introduction. So, you know what? No, because everybody's not here. Let me do the admin notes, right? So, first of all, thank you, each and every last single one of you for being here, for joining us, for being on whatever platform you're on, whether or not you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, YouTube, Kick, Instagram, and for your listening pleasures, Spotify. I've been neglecting Spotify. I need to get Spotify up and running. Man, I wish it was an easier process, but it isn't. You got to manually do it. So, look, as I just said, this is episode number 177. On our way to episode number 200. Episode 200 will conclude season 3, and we will go into season 4 with the Rebirth. So, each and every last single one of you, thank you. Like, share, subscribe. Continue to send us messages and DM us on all the platforms you see us on. Send us messages, man, or drop whatever inside the thread. Man, we appreciate you guys. Look, I am here. We are here. This is the Final Boss Podcast. This is the Final Boss Journey. This is the Final Boss Nation. Look, right? What if I told you something, right? Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's go ahead and get into it, man. Right? Because this is something I want you to know, right? This is something I want you to know. Because right now, while Americans, I'm not going to just say Americans, let's just say America, right? Let's just say America. Salute to you, Miss Andrea. Thank you for joining us. Well, America argues final bosses build. You heard me. While America argues, final bosses build, right? While the media manufactures chaos, empire builders create legacy, right? While everyone else is distracted by the noise, the greatest fortunes in history are being made right now by the people who understand one fundamental truth: crisis doesn't stop builders, it eliminates competition, right? And with that being said, good evening, good evening, good evening, final bosses, warriors, motivators, and smarts in my final boss community. This is the final boss. Sitting Down Sundays, episode number 177. And we're going to dive deep into season 3, The Reckoning. As we're only 23 episodes remaining before the beginning of, or the start, I should say, of season 4, The Rebirth. The Rebirth launches on episode 201. But tonight's message is mission critical, right? And you know who I am. I'm the final boss, right? Combat veteran, dual theater combat veteran, I should say, 23 years federal service, father to my beautiful daughter. I've operated through multiple national crises, economic collapses, combat deployments, and corporate warfare. And here's what I learned. The world is always burning somewhere, right? There's always chaos. There's always a crisis. There's always a reason to stop building and start panicking, right? But the final bosses throughout history, they built through every crisis. They built during wars. They built during economic collapse. They built during political upheaval. They built while everyone else was frozen in fear or distracted by outrage, right? Hey, Chakani, glad you're here. Good to see you. But tonight, I'm showing you exactly how they did it and how you do it right now, regardless of what's happening in the media, the markets, or what's happening in the streets, right? This is tactical intelligence for builders who refuse to stop. Now, let's execute, right? Let's go ahead and execute. Yeah, here on Sitting Down Sundays, right? But here's what specifically qualifies me to talk about building through chaos, our subject of tonight. You know, if you don't know, some of you have just joined us. I was working at the Pentagon, September 11th, 2001. Chaos, 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 chaos. After that, I deployed to several combat zones where economic systems collapsed, governments failed, chaos, right? I built a cybersecurity business, right? I'm building a media empire during this algorithm suppression, right? These platforms have high volatility and market uncertainty. All that spells is CHAOS, chaos. The world has been burning my entire life, but I am still here and I'm building. That's not luck, that's protocol. And tonight's mission, we're going deep on how the greatest empire builders in history operated during humanity's worst crisis, right? That's what we're going to be talking about. Tactical intelligence that you can execute starting tomorrow, right? And we're going to cover, we could start with Carnegie. Yeah, we're going to start with, we're going to be covering Carnegie building their empire through the economic panic. We're going to talk about Bezos building during the dot-com crash. We're going to talk about military contractors building during wartime chaos, right? And then we're going to talk about my 23 years of federal service and what it has taught me and on how to operate under impossible conditions. Meanwhile, distraction, which is the real enemy, is at an all-time high, right? Not the crisis itself. And those exact protocols you need to maintain focus and momentum when everything around you is designed to stop you, right? If you don't know this, I'm here 5 nights a week at 9 p.m. Started with Motivation Mondays, Tech Tuesdays with the Sensei. Merger Wednesdays is where I cover consciousness technology integration, and special guest Thursdays. And finally, right here with me on Sitting Down Sundays, where we tackle what matters most, right? And we're in season 3, The Reckoning, right? 23 episodes from completion this particular season. And this season has been about accountability, voice sovereignty, and building legacy architecture that survives chaos. Season 4, the Rebirth, launches at episode 201. And it's going to be about exponential growth after you've laid proper foundation, right? But you can't experience rebirth if you stop building during the reckoning. Tonight's uncomfortable truth is this: chaos isn't going away, right? The media will always manufacture outrage. Political division will always exist. Economic uncertainty will always threaten. There will always be a reason to stop building. The question isn't whether the world is burning. The question is, are you building anyway? Let's answer that question together, Final Boss family, right? And we're going to go into the brass tacks, man. And here's the brass tacks of the evening, right? You, wake up, pay attention. I ain't that boring. I'm talking to you. I'm not that boring. You don't get a bathroom break or a hallway pass. Take these notes, right? Tonight's brass tacks. And we just getting started. The world has been ending since it began. Empires rise during every apocalypse. Fortunes are made during every crisis. Legacy is built during every collapse. The chaos doesn't determine your outcome. Your response to chaos does. Right? Now, let me give you the fundamental reality that separates builders from victims. Crisis, understand this, right? Understand this right here. Crisis is constant. Accept it. Accept that crisis is constant. You must accept it. You must also accept the fact that chaos is permanent, right? Uncertainty is the only certainty. I'm going to say that again. Uncertainty is the only certainty. Every generation thinks they're living through uniquely terrible times. Every generation is convinced the world is collapsing, right? In unprecedented ways. Every generation has massive media apparatus telling them to panic, argue, divide, and freeze. And every generation produces a small percentage of people who ignore the noise and build anyway. Those people create generational wealth. Those people leave permanent legacy. Those people become the final bosses future generations study, right? And here's what they understand that everyone else doesn't. Crisis, as it is and as it stands, crisis eliminates your competition. When the world burns, 90% of people stop building. They panic. They wait. They argue about who's to blame. They consume endless media trying to understand what's happening. They freeze in analysis paralysis, right? That's when the 10% who keep building capture all the opportunity the 90% abandon, right? You hear the word economic crisis, right? When you hear it, most businesses close. The builders buy assets at discount prices and expand. When you hear political chaos, most people argue online, right? The builders focus on execution and dominate markets while competition is distracted. Media hysteria. Most people doom scroll. The builders create value and capture attention from everyone who's exhausted by that very outrage. But tonight, I'm teaching you three things, right? Number one, historical proof that the greatest empires were built during the worst crisis, right? We're going to drop names, dates, numbers, and strategies because I have the receipts. I have the receipts, people, right? Number two, the psychological warfare being deployed right now specifically is designed to stop you from building. And we're going to talk about how to counter it, right? We're going to talk about how to counter it, right? And number three, right? We're going to be talking about the exact tactical protocols I use to maintain focus, momentum, and execution regardless of external chaos. The world is burning. It's always burning. It will keep burning. The question is, are you building anyway? That's the only question that matters. This is brass tacks. This is season 3, the reckoning. Let's go. Right? All right. Let's start with Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie in 1873. In the panic of 1873, one of the worst economic depressions in American history, right? Banks collapsed, railroads went bankrupt, unemployment hit 14%, businesses closed nationwide, stock market crashed, economic devastation lasted for 6 years. Most people panicked. Most businesses contracted or died, right? Most investors sold everything and hid. Carnegie, what did he do? I know you want to know. I know you do. He bought, right? Carnegie bought. While everyone else was frozen in fear, Carnegie purchased steel mills, iron ore deposits, railroad companies, manufacturing facilities at massive discounts. Companies desperate to survive sold assets for pennies on a dollar. Carnegie built his steel empire during America's worst economic depression. By the time the economy recovered, Carnegie owned so much critical infrastructure that he dominated the entire industry. His competitors who survived the panic were so weakened they couldn't compete, right? Now, let's fast forward. 1901. Carnegie, right? Listen, Pay attention. Listen. 1901, right? For those who were born in the 1900s, right? Carnegie sold his steel company at 1901 for a whopping, guess what? A whopping $480 million, which is roughly equivalent to $16 billion today. He became one of the wealthiest humans in history. When did he build that empire? Right? He built it during the crisis while the world was burning. And here's the tactical principle. Economic crisis creates asset buying opportunities that don't exist during stability. When times are good, assets are expensive and competition is fierce. When crisis hits, desperate sellers flood the market and competition disappears. The builders who maintain capital, focus, and execution during crisis acquire resources that create generational wealth. Carnegie wasn't lucky. He was disciplined. He didn't panic when everyone else did. He didn't stop building when the world burned. He executed strategy while everyone else argued about who caused the panic. That's lesson number one. Crisis doesn't stop empire building, it accelerates it for those who keep building. Right? Now, let's talk about Jeff Bezos. Let's talk about Jeff Bezos, right? Jeff Bezos. From the year 1999 to the year 2002, the dot-com bubble burst, right? Internet companies that had been valued at billions collapsed overnight. Pets.com, Webvan, eToys, hundreds of companies went bankrupt. NASDAQ lost 78% of its value. Trillions in market capitalization evaporated. Tech investors lost fortunes. The media declared the internet revolution was over. Analysts said e-commerce was a failed experiment and investors fled tech stocks entirely. Amazon stock dropped from $106 a share to $6 a share. The company lost 95% of its market value. Media wrote arbitrary obituaries for Amazon. Analysts predicted bankruptcy. Bezos, what did he do? He kept building, right? While competitors closed, Bezos expanded Amazon's distribution infrastructure while everyone else laid off workers. Amazon invested in warehouse automation and logistical systems while the tech industry contracted, right? Amazon acquired struggling competitors' assets at discount prices. Bezos didn't just survive the dot-com crash. He used it to eliminate competition and build unstoppable infrastructure. By 2003, Amazon was profitable. By 2010, Amazon dominated e-commerce. And you know the story. The story goes as follows. Today, Amazon is worth $2 trillion because Bezos built through the crisis that killed his competition. And here's the tactical principle, right? Market panic creates infrastructure building opportunities. When valuations collapse, you can build systems for a fraction of normal costs. When competitors close, you can hire their best talent. When investors panic, you can acquire technology and infrastructure that would have been unaffordable during stability. Bezos didn't waste the crisis, right, arguing about what caused the bubble. He didn't freeze waiting for clarity. He executed infrastructure strategy while everyone else panicked, right? The world was burning. Tech industry on fire. Investors losing everything. Media declaring e-commerce dead. But guess what? Jeff Bezos built anyway. That's why he won, and he changed the game because of it. Right now, let's pivot for a second. Let me give you a perspective from federal service and combat deployments. Right. Let me give you this perspective. So, as you know, September 11, 2001, I'm at the Pentagon. The country enters the longest period of continuous warfare in American history. Chaos was everywhere, right? Political division, economic uncertainty, 2 theater wars, families disrupted, national trauma, right? What happened economically? Military contractors built empires. Companies like Booz Allen Hamilton, Khaki, DynCorp, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and many more, Halliburton, they expanded exponentially during wartime chaos, right? Why? Because they didn't stop building. They didn't wait for stability. They executed contracts while everyone else was arguing about policy, right? I watched this firsthand, right? While civilians debated, contractors built infrastructure, while media created division. These companies delivered logistics, cybersecurity, intelligence systems, training programs, and technology platforms, right? They built during maximum chaos and created generational corporate value. And here's the tactical principle in that, right? Mission critical needs don't stop during crisis, they accelerate, right? During war, military needs logistics, intelligence, security, technology. During pandemic, society needs medical supplies, delivery systems, communication platforms. During economic crisis, business needs efficiency, cost-cutting, restructuring, expertise. The builders who provide mission-critical services during crisis capture market share that becomes permanent, right? Me understanding that principle was critical. It wasn't optional, right? It's critical. Data breaches don't pause for political division. When we was having those ransomware attacks, companies didn't wait for economic stability, right? So while others might contract during uncertainty, cybersecurity demand increases. That's why I keep building regardless of external chaos, right? Mission critical services are crisis proof. If what you're building solves real problems, crisis doesn't stop you, it accelerates your relevance. The world burns, mission critical needs intensify. Builders who serve those in need win, right? Now let's pivot again. I'm going to make this personal, just for a little bit, right? Again, September 11, 2001, I was a fiber optic technician, right? When the plane hit the building, it was absolute chaos. It was death, destruction, national crisis. Everything stopped, except it doesn't. Within hours, we're back online. Within days, Pentagon operations are functioning. Within weeks, we're coordinating two-theater military response. And here's what I learned that shaped everything I've built since. Right? Mission critical systems don't get the luxury of stopping. The world can burn. National trauma can happen. Economic systems can collapse. Political chaos can reign. But political infrastructure has to keep operating. Communication systems, intelligent networks, military logistics, cybersecurity leadership, command and control. What? Somebody just said, I'll answer that question later. But you're wrong. Point it out. Tell me what you're talking about. Tell me what you're talking about, man. You caught me off guard with that. But critical infrastructure has to keep operating, people. Someone has to keep building those systems regardless of what's happening externally. That's why this is what I understood by that, right? The builders who serve mission critical functions don't get to freeze during crisis, right? They become more valuable, more essential, more irreplaceable, right? I spent 23 years operating under that principle. During combat deployments, right? Keep building communication infrastructure was my thought process. Even during economic downturns, keep securing data systems, right? Political transitions, keep delivering cyber security services, right? Because mission critical needs don't pause for chaos, right? And that's why I position myself in my businesses in essential services. That's why I'm building media infrastructure around permanent human needs, right? Through motivation, wisdom, legacy, growth. Because economic crisis doesn't eliminate people's needs for security. Political division doesn't eliminate people's hunger for meaning. Media chaos doesn't eliminate people's desire for growth. Nah, Hook, man, I don't know what you're talking about, bro. So I keep building infrastructure that serves permanent human needs regardless of temporary chaos. September 11 taught me the world will always give you reasons to stop. Crisis will always seem unprecedented. Chaos will always feel overwhelming. But mission critical builders don't get to stop. They become more essential during crisis, not less. And that's how you build empire. While the world burns, you serve the needs that intensify during the crisis. You don't disappear, right? Now let me show you what's actually happening right now. The mechanism designed specifically to stop you from building. There's a multi-billion-dollar economy built entirely on distraction, right? We've talked about this. Media companies, social media platforms, political machines, news networks, they profit when you're distracted, divided, outraged, and frozen. And here's the business model, right? It's a business model to it. I'm going to tell you exactly what it's all about. Take some notes, right? So step one, create and amplify the crisis narrative, a war, political division, economic collapse, disease, whatever generates strongest emotional response. Let's go into step two, right? Step two, provide 24/7 coverage that makes the crisis feel immediate, personal, and urgent. Make it impossible to ignore. Make people feel like they must pay attention right now, right? And step number three, monetize that attention. Monetize that attention through advertising, through subscription, through political donations, clicks, engagement, data collection, right? And step number four, when attention wavers, amplify next crisis. Repeat cycle. You're not the customer in this model. You're the product. Your attention, your outrage, your fear, your division, that's what they're selling to advertisers and political interests. And here's the key insight, right? Here's the key insight to that, right? This business model requires you to stop building. If you're focused on building your business, you're not watching their content. If you're executing on your goals, you're not doom scrolling their feeds. If you're creating legacy for your family, you're not consuming their outrage, right? They need you distracted to profit. They need you frozen to monetize. They need you divided to maintain market share, right? So they make every crisis feel uniquely catastrophic. They make every political moment feel like the end of democracy. They make every economic shift feel like imminent collapse. Not because it's true, but because it's profitable, right? Because it's profitable, right? Crazy. I'm not saying real problems don't exist. I'm saying the volume, the frequency, and the intensity of crisis messaging is economically motivated, not informationally necessary. And here's the tactical counter for that, right? Ruthless audit what information you actually need versus what you're consuming. We've talked about this a few other times, right? On several different episodes. I even gave you guys call the actions, right? I gave you call to actions, right? To audit what you intake, right? Ask yourself this: do you need to know breaking news every hour? Or could you check once daily and execute better? Do you need to understand every political development in real time? Or could you focus on building and vote when elections happen? Do you need to consume every crisis narrative? Or could you serve your mission and let others argue, right? Serve yourself. The distraction economy wants your attention. Building empire requires you to reclaim it, right? Now, let me show you this. Let me show you the specific psychological tactics being deployed against builders right now, right? Number one is urgency manipulation, right? Breaking news, developing story. You need to see this now, right? Everything is framed as immediate. Everything demands your attention. Nothing can wait. And you ask yourself, why is this happening? Because urgency bypasses rational decision making. When something feels urgent, you react emotionally instead of strategically. Builders operate strategically. Urgent messaging is designed to prevent strategic thinking, right? And the counter tactic to that is this: you must have a delayed response. When something feels urgent, wait 24 hours. If it still matters tomorrow, address it then. Most urgent news becomes irrelevant within hours, right? Crisis, catastrophe, and unprecedented existential threat. Every problem is framed in maximum danger. Every challenge is positioned as potentially civilization ending, right? There's a cat in the tree. Catastrophe, right? A lady just got a flat tire 2 blocks from her home. Unprecedented danger, right? That's how they frame it. Every problem is framed in maximum danger, right? Because fear freezes action. Scared people don't build, they hide. They prepare for disaster. They stockpile instead of invest. Builders operate through fear, not from it. Fear application is designed to prevent building, right? And when that happens, what should you be doing? You should take a historical perspective. You should say to yourself, every generation has faced unprecedented threats. Humanity has survived all of them. Your building timeline extends beyond this news cycle, right? Listen, when they say you're either with us or against us, you must choose a side. This issue defines you. Don't get caught up in the bilateral choosing, right? Every topic is framed as binary choice, requiring immediate declaration. Nuance is eliminated. Middle ground is attacked. Tribal identity is enforced. Why? Because division keeps people arguing instead of building. If everyone's fighting each other, they're not competing in the marketplace. Builders operate above division. Division enforcement is designed to prevent collaboration and focus, right? You must refuse that thought process. You must refuse the binary framing. You don't need positions on every issue. You need focus on your mission. Let others argue while you execute, right? You need to understand this, right? You need to understand this. All right. And here's why. Here's why this is actually about 6 different things wrapped up in one. Let me explain. Every issue is made infinitely complex. Full understanding seems to require hours of research and constant updates. Because complexity creates analysis paralysis. If you feel like you need to fully understand something before acting, you never act. Builders operate through clarity, not complete information. Complexity overload is designed to prevent execution. Counter tactic to that is this. You must simplify ruthlessly, right? You must simplify ruthlessly. Think about, what do you control? What serves your mission? Everything else is noise. There are conspiracy theories, right? These are documented psychological tactics that have been refined over decades because they work, right? They work. Unless you recognize them and counter them systematically, right? All right. Enough about analysis. All right. Let's get tactical, man. Let's get tactical. Here are the exact protocols I use to maintain focus and build a momentum regardless of external chaos. And if you're wondering where I'm getting this information from, go pick up Go Time. Go pick up Go Time, all aboard the Fired Up train. All the principles are in here. The six pillars of success, momentum code, a cornerstone of magnificence, all wrapped up in here. These are the principles where I'm getting this information from, right? All aboard, Fired Up train, Go Time. Go pick it up. Where all books are served, right? Let that be your reference. I check the news once daily, right? Usually early in the morning, right? No more than 15 minutes. I identify anything that directly affects me, my business, or family. Everything else is achieved in what I like to call interesting, but of no concern, right? I don't watch the news 24/7. I don't scroll social media feeds for current events. I don't consume breaking news alerts. Why? Because 99% of crisis information doesn't require my response. I can control national politics. I can't change media narratives. I can't solve global problems, and neither can you, right? But while all that is going on, I can build my business. I can serve my clients. I can create content for my community. I can be present for all those who need me, right? You need to take an information diet. Information diet, you consume only what enables action. Everything else is entertainment disguised as necessity, right? Every morning, review your primary missions of the day, whatever that is. If daily activities don't serve those missions, they're distractions, regardless of how urgent they feel. Media crisis doesn't serve my mission, not my problem. Political argument doesn't serve my mission, right? That's not my fight. Social media drama doesn't serve my mission. Neither does it have my attention. Mission clarity creates binary filter. You have to ask, does this serve my mission? If yes, engage. If no, ignore, right? I don't debate whether to build. I schedule building times as a non-negotiable each and every day, right? Each and every single day. This podcast right here is on 5 nights a week, 9 p.m. live. Happens regardless of the news cycle, business development, morning blocks, 3 days a week, right? Happens regardless of political chaos, right? In the afternoon, 4 days a week. If things I have to take care of, happens regardless of economic uncertainty. When it's time for have family time, daily, happens regardless of world events. I don't wait for good conditions to execute. I execute on schedule regardless of conditions. The world can burn, my execution remains protected, right? You must control your narrative. You must control your narrative, right? I control my information out inputs. I choose what enters my consciousness. I decide what narrative get access to my mental real estate. I don't consume content that's purely outrage generating. I don't follow accounts that exist to create division. I don't watch programming that's designed to make me afraid. I consume information that serves building industry news, technical development, market opportunities, strategic analysis. My mental environment is curated for execution, not reaction. To my final bosses, to my motivators, to my warriors, to my smarts, the Final Boss Nation community exists partly to insulate against chaos. When everyone around you is panicking, you panic. When everyone around you is building, you build. I surround myself digitally, physically, with people focused on execution, right? The sensei, who's on Tech Tuesdays. My special guests, who are building communities members. They're all focused on growth. That creates collective momentum. That's more powerful than individual discipline. These 5 protocols, right? These 5 protocols right here: information diet, mission clarity, execution blocking, narrative control, community installation, are all how I maintain building velocity while the world burns, right? They're not perfect. They require discipline, but they work, right? They work. Now, let me strip this down to absolutely fundamentals. And here's what you actually control during chaos, right? During chaos. Because during chaos, right, you can't control the economy. You can control whether you make business calls that day, right? If that's what you're into. You can't control political division. You can control whether you serve whatever political party you're serving, right? You can't control media narratives, but you can control whether you create valuable content, right? Daily actions compound into empire. Everything else is spectator sport. You choose what you read, watch, consume. Nobody forces you to doom scroll. Nobody requires you to watch crisis coverage. Nobody mandates you argue online. Your consciousness is yours to protect, defended like critical infrastructure, right? You decide whether external chaos lowers your standards. You decide whether uncertainty delays your building. You decide whether crisis becomes excuse for stopping, right? Excellence during chaos creates separation from competition. Everyone can execute during stability. Empire builders execute through crisis, right? You have finite mental bandwidth. You choose whether to allocate it toward building or consuming crisis content, right? You have 24 hours in a day. You decide how much time you're going to build, how much time you're going to be distracted. That allocation right there, repeated daily, determines your decade because time is moving fast, right? Time is moving fast, right? When it comes to your family legacy, regardless of national crisis, you control what you leave to family, right? You can't fix the chaos. You can't fix American politics, but you can write books, right? You can record podcasts, right? You can build businesses. You can document wisdom, right? National crisis doesn't prevent personal legacy building. They're two separate domains, right? What you don't control. What you don't control, right? Think about it. You don't control political outcomes. You don't control media narratives. You don't control economic policy. You don't control social trends. You don't control others' opinions. So why allocate mental bandwidth there? And here's the tactical discipline, right? I know it sounds simple. I know it sounds simple, but it's incredibly difficult, right? I know. Most people do the opposite. Most people obsess over things they can't control while neglecting things they can. The builders, they flip that equation, obsess over controllable factors. They acknowledge, but don't obsess over uncontrollable factors, right? They create agency during chaos. That enables building while others freeze. You can't control whether the world burns. You can control whether you build anyway. Choose the second option. That's how you win, right? That's how you win in season 3, The Reckoning, baby. That's how you win. Now, let me address where we are right now on the Final Boss podcast, right? Let me address this. The Final Boss podcast journey, right? We're in season 3, The Reckoning. This is episode 177 of 200. Only 23 episodes remain before season 4, The Rebirth, which launches episode 201. Why does that matter tonight, you ask? Because The Reckoning isn't just a title, it's a framework. Season 3 has been about accountability, voice sovereignty, legacy architecture, building foundations that survive chaos. The reckoning is this: you're accountable for your outcomes regardless of external circumstances. The economy burns, you're still accountable for your financial results. Politics divide, you're still accountable for your family's legacy. Media creates chaos, you're still accountable for building momentum. That's the reckoning, right? External chaos doesn't excuse internal failure to execute. Last week on episode 176, we covered voice sovereignty. Why you don't matter if you don't have documented voice. Tonight, we're covering building sovereignty while you don't succeed if you stop building during crisis. These are connected. Voice sovereignty means controlling your narrative. Building sovereignty means controlling your execution regardless of external conditions, right? Both require the same core discipline. Refuse to let external chaos dictate your external standards, right? Season 3 has been preparing you for what's coming. We're building foundations now. Voice infrastructure, IP protection, execution protocols, focus systems, community networks. Because season 4, the rebirth, will be about exponential growth. But you can't experience rebirth if you stop building during the reckoning. Over the next 23 episodes, we're going deep on advanced building protocols for each episode, right? We're covering consciousness merger implications for legacy. We're addressing tactical excellence under pressure. We're preparing for exponential phase. But tonight's message is a prerequisite for everything coming, right? You must keep building regardless of chaos. You must keep building. Because if you stop now because the world is burning, you missed rebirth. If you freeze because external conditions feel impossible, you forfeit your exponential phase. The reckoning determines who's prepared for rebirth. The builders advance, the distracted don't. Which one are you? Right? This episode right now is forcing you to ask yourself that question. Right? We're 23 episodes from transformation. Don't stop building. Right? Now, let me flip the script. Let me flip the script and in this entire framework, right? Let me flip the script in this entire framework. Because chaos is an obstacle to building. It's not. Chaos is competitive advantage for builders who refuse to stop. And here's why, right? Competition stops, right? Assets become available, right? Attention is also available. Loyalty intensifies, right? Standards create separation, right? Now, standards, think about this. Standards create separation. Because during stability, everyone claims excellence. During chaos, excellence is proven through execution under pressure. Maintaining standards during crisis creates reputation that lasts decades. Being the business that didn't lower quality, the creator who didn't stop producing, the leader who didn't panic, the reputation becomes brand moat that's impossible for competitors to overcome later. You basically create your motion, right? People remember who showed up during the crisis. That memory translates to trust that converts to business for years. Stop thinking chaos is obstacle. Start thinking chaos is filter that eliminates weak competition and reveals empire building opportunities. The world burns. That's not your problem. That's your advantage. You must keep building, right? You must keep building. Because, you know, I'm not building this empire so I can debate politics. I'm building it so my daughter inherits resources, inherits a platform and legacy that survive any chaos she faces in her lifetime. You want to talk about economic collapse? My daughter inherits businesses and intellectual property that generate income regardless of market conditions. You want to talk about political division? My daughter inherits documented wisdom and frameworks that guide decision making regardless of partisan noise. Right? You want to talk about media noise? My daughter inherits voice infrastructure, podcast, books, recorded content that preserves my consciousness, regardless of platform volatility. Right? You want to talk about social upheaval? My daughter inherits community networks, the final boss, the smarts, the motivators, the warriors, right? That provide support regardless of institutional breakdown. I can't control what chaos she'll face, but I can control what infrastructure she inherits to navigate. That's why I don't stop building. That's why I don't stop building, especially when the news gets scary. That's why I don't freeze when markets get volatile. That's why I don't get distracted when media manufacturers outrage, because stopping doesn't protect my daughter. Building does. If I stop building every time the world seems to be ending, my daughter gets nothing. If I let external chaos dictate my execution standards, you know the answer to that, right? Listen, every podcast episode I record, she inherits my voice. Every book, she inherits my wisdom. Every business, she inherits economic infrastructure. Every framework I develop and protect legally, she inherits intellectual property. That inheritance doesn't happen if you stop building because CNN says the sky is falling. The world will always be burning, right? Right? Your children need parents who build through fire, not ones who freezes every time things get hot. Right? They don't need you to perfectly understand every crisis. They need you to keep building regardless. That's legacy. That's what survives you. That's what matters when everything else is forgotten. So when you're tempted to stop building because external chaos feels overwhelming, ask yourself, what am I leaving my people? Are you leaving them excuses or are you leaving them an empire? Right? My suggestion, build the empire. Let others make the excuses, right? Now, this isn't motivation. This is cognitive framework adjustment, right? I need you to understand this. This right here is the wrong mindset, right? When they say, I need to fully understand this crisis before I can act, that's the wrong mindset. And here's the right mindset to that. You need to understand enough, right? And continue executing on what you can control while others analyze. Think about it, right? Think about that part, right? Because that's important. Leave the analysts, leave the analyzing to the analysts. Control what you can, right? Now, something I want you to start doing tomorrow. Here's your call to action. Here's your call to action for tomorrow. Before you start watching any news tomorrow, looking up anything on social media, any external information, review your primary mission. What are you building? Who are you serving? What are your actual goals? Write them down. Read them aloud, right? Commit to them. Commit to them consciousness, right? Commit to them to your consciousness. This creates cognitive defense. When crisis messaging hits later, your mission is already anchored, right? Stop checking the news first thing in the morning. Stop doom scrolling social media before you go to work. Don't consume crisis content before you've executed building any of those actions, right? Because crisis content drains execution energy. If you consume chaos first, you build from a depleted state. You must execute first, build first, create first. Then, if necessary, indulge in a little bit of crisis, right? Most days, you'll realize news was completely irrelevant to your actual building, what you have going on in your life, right? Remember that. Once daily, and you can do this too, right? Schedule time. Schedule time to check the news, right? Whatever you do, scan the headlines, read an article. If you're getting your news from social, or if you're watching it on television, schedule time to do that, right? Watch for 15 minutes. 15 minutes is all you need. That's sufficient situational awareness, right? You don't need hours and hours of news. I'm trying to tell you, you don't need it. Right? You don't need it. Stop with the crisis, man. Crisis chaos. Look, we're approaching the end of episode 177. 177, season 3, The Reckoning. The world is burning. It will keep burning. There will always be crisis. There will always be chaos. There will always be justified reasons to stop building. Empire builders build anyway. I'm giving you Find a Boss community 3 mission critical commands right now. Right? Command number 1: commit to 30 days of undistracted building. Start tomorrow. It's Monday, January 27th. Commit 30 days to protected building time. No news consumption before execution. No social media scrolling during building blocks. No crisis debates during creation time. 30 days, man. 30 days. Prove to yourself that you can build through chaos. Prove that external conditions don't determine your execution capacity. Report your commitment publicly. Tag us at the Find a Boss Challenge, right? Tag us at 30 Days Build Challenge. Make it real, make it public, make it a declaration, right? I'm gonna be doing this with you. 30 days of execution, regardless of what happens in news, politics, markets, or media, right? Who's all in, right? Who's all in? I need to see some hands. Let me see some hands, right? Let me see some hands. Because once you understand this, you understand why Carnegie built during panic, why Bezos built during the crash. What opportunity exists right now during current chaos that won't exist during stability? What assets are available at discount? What competition has stopped? What attention is available? What talent can you acquire? What infrastructure can you build? This week, man, listen, identify one chaos created opportunity, execute on it before conditions stabilize and opportunity disappears. The builders who captured chaos opportunities created generational wealth. You're in chaos right now. Where's your opportunity? Where's your opportunity? You must find it, execute on it, report results to the community, right? Start thinking about building and protecting your family's infrastructure, regardless of external chaos. What you're building that your family inherits. What content are you documenting? What businesses are you developing? What intellectual property are you protecting? What wisdom are you preserving? This week, man, create one piece of legacy infrastructure. Record one episode if you're into podcasts. Record an episode of your podcast, man. Write a framework document with one lesson. Start one business system, right? Something your kids can inherit. Something your descendants can access, something that survives you regardless of what chaos the future brings. Build it. Make it real, protect it, and legally, if necessary, protect it, right? Those are your 3 commands, right? For the next 30 days. Undistracted, identify opportunity, build legacy. All are your tactical orders. The world burns, you build, right? This is what season 3, the reckoning, has been all about. That's how you prepare for season 4, the rebirth. You execute, right? You execute. Right? Now we're closing out episode 177 of Sitting Down Sundays with the Final Boss. Right? I'm not building this empire so I can watch the world burn. I'm building it so my family thrives regardless of how hot the fire gets. I'm recording 5 podcast episodes weekly so I can debate current events. I'm recording them so my daughter inherits 500 hours of documented wisdom that guides her regardless of what the chaos faces. I'm not developing DigiNet or any other business that I develop so I can react to news cycles. I'm building them so my family inherits economic infrastructure that survives market volatility. I'm not writing books and protecting intellectual property so I can participate in a cultural war. I'm building legacy that outlives me regardless of which way culture shifts. The world has been burning my entire life and I'm still building, right? I'm still building. That's not luck. That's discipline. That's choice. That's protocol. You're watching this because you're a builder. You're a part of the Final Boss community because you refuse to be average. You're here on Sunday with Sitting Down at 9 p.m. because you value execution over excuses. My message to you, keep building. Keep building. We have 23 episodes remaining in season 3, The Reckoning, right? Episode 200 completes this season. Episode 201 launches season 4, The Rebirth. Over the next 23 episodes, we're going to be diving deeper than ever we go, right? We're going to be covering advanced consciousness merger protocols. We're discussing tactical excellence under impossible conditions. We're preparing you for exponential growth, right? But you can't experience rebirth if you stop building during the reckoning, right? And tomorrow night, Monday, 9 p.m., we'll be back for Motivation Monday, right? And then on Tuesday night with the Sensei, right? Would join me on Tech Tuesday. And then Wednesday, Merger Wednesdays, right? Where we continue our conversation of consciousness, technology, integration, right? And then Thursday, my special guest Thursday. And then we do it all over again on Sunday with Sitting Down. 5 nights weekly, every week, 9 p.m., because consistency is infrastructure, because discipline is destiny, because the world burning doesn't affect my building schedule. Before we close, the chaos you're experiencing right now isn't unique. It's not unprecedented. It's not the end of the world. It's the exact same chaos that eliminated your weak competition and revealed your empire building opportunities. Carnegie saw it. Bezos saw it. Military contractors saw it. I see it. Do you see it, right? Do you see it, right? Listen, this has been Sitting Down Sundays, episode number 177 of season 3, The Reckoning. I am the Final Boss, right? The world burns, but you build anyway. Listen, stay dangerous, Stay focused and stay building. And to my final bosses, smarts, motivators, warriors, right? Listen, we are here. I am here, right? And if this all resonated with you, let it marinate in your spine. And as always, remember, there's a heavy pain that comes with discipline, but the pain of regret is even heavier, right? The pain of regret is even heavier. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And to each and every last single one of you, remember this: be balanced, be equal, and be smart. And that's our show for tonight. And it looks as if no one called me to let me know that my team won, so we must have lost the game tonight. So much for a great. Hey, what's up, fam? So much for a great season. Shout out to the Los Angeles Rams, man. I knew you guys put all your effort into it. Shout out to Matthew Stafford and the rest of the gang, man. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Kobe Turner, V8, Brian Fisk, man, the whole squad, man. You guys, man, you make me proud, man. I appreciate you, all your efforts. You ran a hell of a season. Let's do it again next year. All right, guys. Y'all have an amazing evening and a great week. And I'll see you again tomorrow night at 9 p.m. for Motivation Monday. Y'all have a great one. Good night. Oh, man, congratulations. Dude, congratulations, man. Look, that means so much. Man, listen. Let's get you on the show next week, man. Let's get you on the show. And you can talk about your that could be an inspiration to others, man. Congratulations, man, on starting your business. Congratulations. Good luck.